Welcome back to another episode of Life Stripes with Kathy and Duke. On today's episode, we have Yvonne and Hamza. I want to welcome you guys to the show. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
So, Duke,
Kathy,
can you tell our audience what we're going to be discussing today? Because I think people kind of will get the gist, but if you want to summarize it real quick, that'd be great.
So I'll just start with this. Black Lives Matter. I'll just start with that. To the point, Black Lives Matter. We're having this conversation today based on social, economic issues, systematic racism that Black folks and the community has been facing for 500 years, maybe even longer. So we want to discuss that because we see a lot of people protesting, a lot of people marching the good march, talking the good fight. And we want to get ahead of that and have that conversation on how it affects each and every one of us and what does it mean moving on into the future. Right?
Absolutely. And I think I just want to introduce them in terms of Yvonne and Hamza. They do live in Milton. And one of the reasons why we've chosen this particular couple to be on our show is because they were very active in the Milton protests this Saturday. Not only the two of them, but their three young children, Yvonne, your mom, who is Caucasian, and all your brothers and sisters, everybody was out there, and you guys were so impressive. And honestly, there was a picture of you kneeling down with, fist in the air, and I got chills, and I actually wrote that on your IG page. So I just want to thank you guys for, doing what you're doing and spreading the word and making sure that people within your community and outside of your community are very aware of this cause and that you guys are standing up for it. So thank you for both being here today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So what did it feel like? What did it feel like to be out there protesting and being amongst the people in relation to this conversation?
It was overwhelming to see that. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so it was overwhelming to see that much support and not just the support, but how diverse the crowd was.
Right.
And that just tells you that the generation before us and the generation ahead of us, someone's done something right.
Mm-hmm.
To see that if you look back in time, the marches with Martin Luther King, you might have seen one or two white pastors, right? And you look now, what's happening is the crowd is so diverse, and that brought chill to me because I said they get it, they understand it. The new generation doesn't see color, but they see character, and that's the movement. That's the movement that everyone needs to jump on and keep pushing forward for.
I like that. For me, character. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, growing up in Milton, it wasn't very diverse growing up. So walking into the march and seeing the diversity and the young people, the amount of young people there was overwhelming. And it actually brought tears to my eyes. I was so proud to be a Miltonian and to see that young kids, the diversity, and they're all coming together and they don't care the color of your skin. They just understand that it's wrong. And we're doing something right as parents to teach our children at a young age that it doesn't matter if you're black, purple, yellow, whatever your belief is, just love one another. That's all that matters. And if we spread love and empathy and care, like respect, then it will all work out.
Right. And I think it is important for this conversation to be done. I think it's important for the world to recognize that there has been a lot of injustices that the Black community has faced. Do you both believe that this will make a difference come a month from now?
A month from now, no, I don't think so. But I think we still got a long ways to go, right? And we have some work here on our own soil in Canada, but more so in the US and other parts of the world. Our lives are not looked at as being equal to other race, to other colors. And you see it around the world. It's not just in the US, right? So you see it in Europe, you see it even in Africa on their own soil, on their own continent, how they're being treated, particularly in South Africa, Libya, right? So this problem is not just a North American issue, right? It's throughout the world, and the world has seen it. They're acknowledging it, and they're standing up for it.
Absolutely.
I think it's beautiful.
Sorry.
That the world, it's global now.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
you see so many people being part of this movement now, and that's the beautiful thing. I think we're on the right path, but I still think we have a long way to go. But it's a start, and it gives us hope, which is very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I was just reading some stuff online, and I just want to make a quote actually from Toronto Police Inspector Matt Moyer. He basically says, "These aren't protesters; they're ambassadors of peace." And I think that is so on point, because, you know, people are protesting and looting and, you know, all the negative, you know, connotations that people want to slide in there. And, you know, for someone like him, I think at this point in time, especially, to say that, no, they are ambassadors of peace, you need to understand that they are fighting for their lives here, literally, you know, literally. This is not a joke. It's not to be taken lightly. And at the end of the day, it's racist against it's us against the racists, basically, you know, and I don't care what color you are. You know, Duke knows, and you know, you guys, we've spoken about this, where I tend to sort of be the more quiet protester. You know, within my immediate circles, I have great conversations and stuff, and I'm very passionate in those type of settings. I'm a lot more comfortable, I guess. I am not necessarily one of, you know, Black people that are so well versed in all the names and the situations and all the things that have gone on. So when I see people like yourselves, and, you know, Duke, I know what you're trying to do with Unplugged and stuff, I am learning more. I am one of those people, you know, admittedly, sometimes shamefully, but that is my truth, because my reality is very different than a lot of, you know, my brothers and sisters. So one thing, Yvonne, being of mixed race, because I have children of mixed race, so this is doubly like sensitive for me, because they love their dad, and, you know, and he loves them, of course, but how did your mom, you know, instill this sort of, you know, understand where you come from type of power, being a Caucasian woman with Black children?
No, she always told us that we have the best of both worlds, that you may face people that may not like you because of the color of their skin, and it's nothing to do. Believe in yourself, know your truth, and know who you are, and just stick up for what you believe in. And that
you're worth something.
Yeah, like just because I'm Black or brown or whatever color, it doesn't mean I'm any less. I'm just as equal, and do not use those injustices as a crutch.
Right.
You educate yourself, and knowledge is power. Both of my parents always instilled in us that education and knowledge is your power, and no one will stop you. Don't let anyone push you down. Always above.
I love that.
And that's just what we always have done since we're children, young children.
And now you're passing that on to your kids. And
not I think to mention that.
Yeah, I think leading by example speaks volumes. So I want my children to see us lead as a leader that they can look up to, and know that, you know what, like, you may be confronted with some injustices in life, not only because of the color of your skin, because there's so many things. You might not be smart enough, pretty enough, whatever, but know that, rise above it, and know who you are, and then believe in yourself. Always believe in yourself. No one's gonna fight harder for you than you, and that's very important.
I think it's very important for this, for our community to have this solidarity with this fight. I asked the question, and I ask everybody this question that I've encountered over the weeks: what's next? What's next? You protest, you riot, you loot, which I don't agree with the looting thing. I think that takes away from our cause. But what's the next plan? What do we do next?
Is to make sure that we're going to the town halls, and that we're listening to what the new events are. When they want to build libraries, what location is it at, right? Is it helping your community? Is it away from your community? Your kids have access to it, right? It's, at the end of the day, it's your tax money, right? And you need to actually voice your opinion where your tax money is going as well. I find a lot of people don't vote, right? They don't even vote, and then they want to complain what's going on in the world, or what's going on in the community, or what's going on with their country. But at the end of the day, if you don't put the pen to paper on the outcome that you're looking for, you're not gonna achieve it. You're not gonna achieve it.
So you're looking at long-term, which is exactly how everybody needs to be looking at it, from a long-term perspective, not just what's happening in a month, and I mean, in a month, it's hopefully we're still doing this if this is what needs to be done. But I like that, start voting, getting out there, being a part of the town halls, creating your own town halls if you need to, forming groups that you can go to, police unions, or you can go to, law enforcement, wherever, go to your city councilors and your, the municipality leaders, or whatever you have to do to make sure that your voice is heard. I think that's really, really important. And a lot of people, they don't know where to go. So yes, we do this as a collective and everybody's out there, like you guys, but then they don't know where to go afterwards to continue having their voice heard. And that I think is a big part of the problem. So it's for our government to really step up and show people where these outlets are, and that they are.
Do you think it's the government's job to do that, or is it us as a community to create that and let people know? Because I think if we wait on the government to do that, it won't happen. Because here's my fear, and I mentioned the month. Will this be here in the month? And the reason why I mentioned that is because when the next big story happens, and CNN's not talking about this, and CP24 is not talking about this, will we be talking about this? And that is the issue that I have, right? So we need to be the owners of our mission and put our foot forward for our children and our children's children to have that place to go. Because if we wait on the government, that's not the government's agenda.
That's not their
They
agenda.
don't care about that. This is a today problem. It won't be a tomorrow problem for the government, but it will be a problem for us tomorrow and the next day, right?
Absolutely.
So what do you say to that?
I think we just keep on having to have our voice heard. And we have so many platforms now, like social media is huge. And I know I use that to my advantage. Like I post a lot of what I believe in, especially with this movement. And people are going to be uncomfortable having this conversation. And I want them to be uncomfortable. I want them to feel uncomfortable, to realize that's how we felt all this time. And no one's talked about it because they're uncomfortable. You have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable in order to see change
Well said.
in anything in life.
Absolutely.
I definitely agree with that. You do have to get out of your comfort zone and fight for what you believe in, like you said earlier.
Exactly.
Right.
And
The
I found my.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. And I found myself arguing with some of my friends that had different beliefs on the riots and the looting and the protesting.
Were they
and
black?
how it looks on black people. And
yes, they were
black. And I had some that were so uncomfortable. They didn't post, they didn't comment, they stayed, they stayed out of it. And I said, if this is not the time for you to get involved and voice your opinion when the rest of the world is, when every color of the rainbow's out there protesting for your life, I don't know when is. Right.
At the movement yesterday, someone had a sign that stated silence is violence. And it speaks so much truth. Being silent is just as bad as not having your voice heard.
Right. And I think that, for somebody like myself who I wasn't necessarily into the protest, did I agree with the protest? Yes. Was I feeling like I wanted to be in that? In all, I personally did not. That was me. That's my personal choice. Do I commend you, and am I proud, and am I looking at these pictures with like tears in my eyes? Absolutely. But me personally, and bringing my kids and stuff, that was my choice to not do that. And so I understand maybe a little bit of where some of your friends are coming from. However, I think that you do have to find the space where you need to exert your voice, where you're comfortable as you grow into being, comfortably uncomfortable. I think that that's important as long as we're growing, because I know for myself, I'm learning so much, and I think maybe also because I do have kids, right? And they're asking questions and, should I be scared, Mom? Like, it freaks me out. And I don't know how to answer. And I have to tell you, with their father being white, it definitely, I find myself really watching my words. And anybody who knows me, they will watch our show and I get the calls afterwards. Trust me, going, Kathy, we know you. What the hell was all that about? Like, I feel you, like, not, you know, I do censor myself a little bit, and this is full transparency, because I don't want the backlash, you know, from my non-Black friends or, you know, their father or whoever. I don't want it. It's just an added stress for me, where I know how I feel. If people come to me, I have amazing private conversations, you know, and I express that, listen, a Black man, Black woman who dies, that's my brother or sister, you know, and I feel it, like a piece of my soul dies with them. And I think all of us, you know, can attest to that. But, you know, then a protest, I'm like, ooh, I'll do life stripes. This is where I'm coming from.
And that's where Yvonne, you know, she saw the comments back and forth. I had a friend that posted that Martin Luther King peacefully protesting, and it was a picture, and it only showed the top half where he's peacefully protesting with the kids, the young African American kids, and if you actually looked at the full picture, it was cut out. It was just the top piece. If you look at the full picture, that was, you would have seen the riot gear officers beating them, the dogs biting them. But they said this is the way we should be protesting. I said there is no handbook on how to protest.
Yeah.
Everyone's
I don't think there's a right way or there's a wrong way.
Right.
Yes.
We mentioned the looting earlier. I personally don't agree with the looting myself.
I don't agree with him, but
for the cause.
But it happens, and it's a minor few that are doing that, and some of them are just protest agitators, right? Right agitators. They're just, some of them are paid. Some of them are paid.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And so everyone's got something that they're trying to take from this, and some people are using this as a reason to go loot and steal.
Right, and to take a total advantage, yeah.
And some people are saying, you know what, I'm never gonna have those pair of shoes because where I live, how much money I make, and my opportunity to ever get those is now. So they're taking something that's always been flashed in front of them, right?
And we all know that it wasn't just Black people that were doing the looting. There were a lot of non-Black people doing the looting.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. So
and for some of these kids, it was a big middle finger to these big corporations and Walmart's and Target, right? I do nothing, but they don't do nothing for the community, right?
Absolutely. And so, you know, we ask where we're going to be in a month. So you just mentioned, you know, for a lot of these corporations, online, there are people posting lots of lists about companies that, you know, lean towards the racist side and, you know, not necessarily in favor of Black people. And there are a lot of, for example, Black designers, you know, Black restaurants that we can all frequent, as opposed to the other establishments. And I think that, you know, from today even, you know, moving forward every day, and just make it a common practice to find Black establishments to support, because as we know within the Black community, this has always been an issue that we just don't support each other. We don't trust each other. And it's like, well, how can we not trust each other? How can we not support each other and expect other people to? It makes no sense.
So the problem with that, Kathy, is the reason why Black people find it a hard time to support each other is because within your own Black community, you have a lot of silos. Right? We were never taught to love each other. Right? Yeah. We were taught to survive.
That's true. Right?
Okay. So with that being said, when you take a slave ship of Africans and you dump them and disperse them off to different islands, and now these islands now created their own kind of ideologies and way of life, right? So you'll have Jamaicans, Trinidadians, Bajans, Haitians, and we all get together in one room and we all feel that we're better than each other.
Ethiopians, right, Hamza?
Right, exactly. We all feel that we're better than each other. Or you know, Caribbeans and Africans don't see eye to eye because, well, you don't know our you know.
Like here, not across you, Bajan, you're Jamaican, and what are you, Yvonne? Half Trinidadian?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
But
so who's better than who? No, I'm just joking.
So my point is, because we have so much dissension within our own community, we have to learn to fix that piece first.
Right.
We need to learn to unite and be as one. Until that happens, yes, we're having these marches. Yes, we're protesting. Yes, we're doing all these things. But we need to love each other first.
Right. So how do we do? I mean, I think it starts at home. You know, like Hamza and Yvonne, what you guys are doing with your children, you are teaching them to love themselves. You know, and I think this is so important. I know I'm doing that with my children. Duke, I know you're doing that with your kids. you know, and it's about loving yourselves, and then you love other people because now you know how to love yourself, you know, and you know how you deserve to be treated, right?
And we just got to stop. Like, it starts from home. Like, you can't sit there and say, well, you know, I forget those Bayesians.
Right.
No, we're all one.
That's right.
One, right? So it starts from there. You love each other. You build your economics. You build the Black economics. You build your businesses. You know, and then you can kind of, you know, not have to worry about systematic racism. We have to bring back Black Wall Street. Let's
Yeah.
we got to bring it back. Right?
Money
We did it way back in the 1900s, like the 1920s. We know it got in Tulsa. We know it got burnt down. We got to bring it back. It's 2020, and we don't have this, right?
Yeah.
So that's the answer to resolving this issue, and that's where I want to see it go.
Yes, financially, economically, we need to make sure we're supporting our local businesses, our Black businesses. We don't do that enough. We don't do that. I see it with other minority groups. You know, I can go to Chinatown, right?
Yeah.
We don't have a Black town.
We need Black town.
Yeah, we don't have a Black town, right? We don't have a Caribbean African town. We don't have that. We got little spurts of it everywhere, right? And funny enough, we're not even the ones supporting them, right?
Exactly.
It's true.
It's the other community supporting them. So,
so
we need to make sure that they're getting the attention that they need. They're getting our financial support that they need.
Right.
And so right now I'm a group of the African Caribbean community, and on WhatsApp, and we talk about these things, and we post all the local Black establishments that we should be shopping from, we should be buying our stuff from. And I think that's a start.
Yeah.
I think that's a start.
Absolutely.
But we need to make sure that filters down to our kids, right? The chain can't stop. It's got to be passed down to your kids. Make sure they understand that. Make sure that they're supporting their groups.
Yeah, we
got to understand.
We got to definitely get to a point where our Black dollar is circulating within our community 13 to 14 times before it exits. And that's the only way we're going to build that wealth, right? Because
right now it's not. And
exactly,
it's not.
It doesn't even circulate once.
No, not once. It's gone.
A big problem.
It's gone. So
Right.
we're not helping ourselves. A lot of the cases, we're not helping ourselves, right? The system's already set up against us, and then on top of that, we don't help ourselves. We don't.
Exactly.
We need to have these conversations. I said this is a starting block, right? Like you said, a month from now is it going to change things? No. This is a conversation. This is a building block, right? This is one step, and we can't de-announce what our brothers and sisters have died for in the past, right? They actually knew when they were marching back then, when they stepped out, there's a good chance they're not coming home. So these protests that we're doing now, peacefully in Canada, we need to make sure we're supporting those protesters. When I see people of different color, let's say the white kids out there getting shot, some of them dying, some of them losing an eye from rubber bullets, horrific injuries, and they're out there protesting for my Black life, and I can't go out and do the same, there's a problem. That means I don't care, or I just blind eye to it, or I'm still scared, which is fine. And Yvonne kind of helped me back and says, all your friends are at a different level of comfort with the situation, and you got to be patient with them, right? Maybe they're in the process of educating themselves, so they understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Some of them don't even know their Black history. They haven't been taught.
Yeah.
They haven't been taught. They don't even know where they're from. They don't know the background. They don't even know their roots, ancestors. Which part of Africa do they come from, right? And the great part is the new generation is eager to know, what part of Africa am I from? Where is my ancestors, right? What part? I want to go visit. I want to know. And it's refreshing to see that. I find for the longest time, the Caribbean African community, some of the Caribbeans don't even associate themselves as being African.
Yeah.
Right? I have friends like that. I say, no, I'm Jamaican. What do you mean African?
Yeah.
Really? And then I gotta get the website out. I gotta get the books out, and I'm like, listen.
But that's what you do. Really, good for you.
Right?
Yeah.
This is where you came from. You can do your homework, right? But it's not to their fault. It's just we were raised without the Black history, right? We have to ask for it.
But Hamza, here's the other thing. I know my cousin, I haven't done it, but my cousin's done her Ancestry. You know, you do the swab thing and you send it in to see where you're from and stuff. And so when most people from the Caribbean will say, well, I'm not African, I think it's more so what part of Africa am I from? Like, Africa is a huge continent. Like, I wouldn't even know where to start. But my cousin did her Ancestry, for example, and we found out that she is mostly Nigerian. Who knew? You know, so we then assume, those of us who haven't done it, that we lean towards the Nigerian side. You know, so now all of a sudden you can identify, you know, now you're more comfortable saying, you know, of course I'm African Canadian because Afro-Caribbean Canadian because my heritage is Nigerian. And I can now pinpoint that because of Ancestry.com. But generally speaking, with a lot of West Indians, we have no clue what part of Africa we originate from, you know, and that is the massive disservice, because if I had to zone in now on one particular region, it's going to be the history, it's going to be all of that, so I can relate more. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And it's exciting and refreshing to know that the next generation is doing their research and is eager to learn, and they want to know their history. And there's a lot of avenues and a lot of platforms and a lot of, you know, books and websites they can go and find out. And it's refreshing to see they're eager to learn, and some of them want to go visit. And which is good. And I see some people or some Africans have come to the U.S. to just do the studies and move back home, or starting these programs where they're bringing these American Black Americans over to Africa to show them the history, the heritage, and where the slave ships took off from, and they're getting the education they need to bring back to their, you know, the hometown in the U.S. and say, listen, we're more than what they're trying to tell us we are. Right? Absolutely. We come from kings and queens, right? Don't denounce our self-worth. We're bigger than this. The system is just put there to keep us down for so long, but now we're rising up and we're proud of ourselves. And when I saw that T-shirt with Barack Obama holding it, when he said, I didn't plan to be Black, I was lucky. You're right? And what can you say to that? I think most Black people are proud of themselves, proud of it, but they don't know how to express it, or they don't want to hurt people's feelings. They don't want to rock the boat, which is fine. But at some point, we need to have this discussion and say, listen, enough is enough. What we're seeing is not right. And especially in the U.S., most of these kids are growing up without one of the parents in the home, and usually the father. They're lacking that leadership from the father's side because of what's going on.
That's right.
When they're constantly, when you see these people acting out and they're not conforming to what the cop wants them to do, because that's the 13th time in 1 month they've been pulled over for nonsense, right? They're poking at you. They poke at you one at a time, one stop at a time, to the point where you explode. And
that's
what do they show?
Story. That's
right. You fit the description. Your tail light is out. Just checking to see if your license is valid. So 13 times in a month. All right, on 13th one, you've had enough. All right.
Yeah.
And then that's when you see the explosion going on. You're tired of it. Enough is enough, right? Yeah. So it's just they don't do it all at once. It's just a small poke every time, right? It's just a harassment. And when you had enough is enough, people react, and that's the reaction they want from you. Unfortunately, sometimes it happens, right? So
absolutely. I think very, very well said, honestly.
It is definitely time for us to rise up. But I just want to make sure that when we rise up, the energy continues. Right? These conversations continue. We set things in motion in place that people and our children and even myself can go to and educate ourselves and have that guidance in these discussions, because my fear, and I strongly urge people to continue, because my fear is that this energy and this momentum is going to die down, and I don't want to see that happen.
Yes, and right now we have the perfect storm where everybody is home, and then they're starting to wake up to what's going on around them. Right? We were so busy before. We were so busy with our own personal life, work, home, kids, friends, whatever, events. You don't see what's going on. You live in a small bubble, and that's what happens when you live in a small bubble, is you forget to see what's going on around the world. Absolutely. And what COVID-19 has done is it's given us time at home to see what's truly. Sit still and see and observe and listen and watch and see and what's going on. Oh, okay, really. All these unnecessary, unarmed killing of Black men in the U.S.
Yeah.
And then, and women, right?
Yeah.
Not only by the police, but, by the civilian of the U.S. just murdering people for nonsense, trespassing. You look for having your hoodie on for $20 fraudulent check. It's nonsense.
Or jogging.
Or jogging.
Well, I mean,
It's
they've got that law that they can stand by called stand your ground, right? So they tend to use that to their advantage to say, hey, I'm going to make a citizen's arrest, and if you move, I'm going to shoot you, right? So the state says the U.S. is definitely crazy with that law. That law makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
And what I was telling Yvonne was that Canada's not perfect, but U.S. is trying to get to the level where we're at here in Canada. They're striving. They're just trying to get to where Canada's at, right? We're trying to make Canada even.
Canada, I think we are seemingly not as bad. We just don't have the numbers because we just have less of a population. Period.
That's right.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I don't even want to. Canada versus the U.S. is a little bit different.
It's different. It's different.
It's a little bit different. I find that U.S. the racism is to your face.
It's upfront.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's upfront. We're in Canada, and I think, to be honest with you, I think Canada's worse in the sense that they more hide it.
Undercover. Yes, we were just talking about this last night.
And I'd rather know that you don't like me to my face.
Yes, exactly.
So true. It's so true. Yes. Like when people oh, you sound white, or whatever, you're whitewashed.
Or you're different. You're different for a Black girl. Like you're not like Black people. Like what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Exactly.
I used to get. Oh, you speak well.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So I'm supposed to speak different?
Right.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, I went to the same school as you. I don't. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
And not to prolong it, but I mean, this show is definitely going to be one of those shows that people are going to watch and get a different side of Kathy, right?
I'm here, people.
But if you guys had any advice for your friends, Black, white, Chinese, whatever, what would your advice be for them during this time?
I think be understanding. Try to put yourself in that person's shoes.
Right.
And be empathetic. Try to understand why they feel the way they feel instead of just judging them. Right. My mom used to always say to us as children, never judge a book by its cover. You've never walked in that person's shoes. You don't understand. Try to step in their shoes and see through their eyes how they see, what they're seeing and how they're feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
But what I want people to know is that we're not just strictly fighting for just Blacks. This is just make sure that any minority group that's not white or it is white or whatever kind of racism that's going on needs to stop, right? People at work be like, oh, you guys out there protesting for Black Lives Matter. We're fighting. Yes, we are for Black Lives Matter, but we're trying to make sure that racism doesn't exist for anybody.
That's right.
You're yellow, brown, whatever it may be, right?
Yes.
And it starts with us, right? We're the most oppressed, I believe, next to the natives, right? And if you actually see what's going on with the natives of Canada and how their land's been taken away and how they peacefully protested the pipelines and how they've been ill-treated, and they continue to be ill-treated. And I tell anyone, my mission is to make sure that we get our point across, our voice heard, and I want them to jump on this bandwagon as well and get their voices heard, right? They need to get on this movement and get their voices out there because they've been doing what we've been trying to do, get our voices heard. No one's listening to them. I see it on TV. I see them getting sprayed and everything, and they're not burning nothing down. They're not even rioting. They're out there in the fields protecting their land. Their ancestors were buried. The whole thing was to not build a pipeline here because our ancestors are buried on the sacred land. Peacefully locked hands protesting, they're spraying them, right? So I think they need to jump on this movement and say, listen, we got something to say too as well, right? And we need to uplift them and we need to carry them with us. So.
Yeah. Well,
There's a lot of great.
I hope that Trudeau taking the knee and everybody taking the knee, that they truly
Mhm.
understand what taking the knee represents, and they cannot take it back because that was all caught on film, right? So now that you've taken the knee, we need to see something happen, right? We need to see change happen because shit is real.
Yeah, and when my man Colin Kaepernick loses his ability to play football, something that he loved playing since he was young, little
Right.
boy, and that was his dream, and he's willing to, he's fighting seriously to avoid all this, and it fell on deaf ears, right?
Yeah.
They threw him out for kneeling. Originally, he was sitting down.
Yeah.
And we talked to Neil, a Navy SEAL, that said, listen, it'd be more respectful if you actually just took a knee. And he said, you know what, you're right. Start taking a knee. That wasn't good enough, right?
Right.
We talked about it at the BET Awards. That's not the platform for you. NBA players talked about it. No, you just shut up and dribble, right? When is a good time to talk about it? Right? When is it a good time for us to actually say enough is enough? It doesn't matter what the platform is. It doesn't matter what my career is, where I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm going to get my message out. Because at the end of the day, when you get off that football field, when you get off that basketball court, and you're not wearing that jersey with your name on the back, just another black man, right? Just another black man. And LeBron James, big advocate of this, when they spelled the N-word across his gate at his house, he says, listen, I'm not invisible to this either. I'm a victim of it as well, right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, their kids are going to have to drive up when they get old enough and they're 16, 17 on their own. They're not going to know that's LeBron James' son. Yeah, treat them the same way they treat any other black person, right? And this is what they're fighting for. And I wish more athletes, more people with bigger platforms speak up and join forces. Every player went down on their knees, not just in the NFL, but also in the NBA, also in FIFA, in every sport. You think you still have a job? Absolutely. Yeah. What are you gonna throw out all those athletes? You wouldn't have a league.
That's right.
You wouldn't have a league.
That's right.
And the only reason why the NFL is backtracking everything they did is because of the movement that's going on right now. And that's what it took for them to backtrack, because they knew people are gonna boycott. They're gonna lose money. At the end of the day, when you hit them financially, it's when you see the change start to come. You're gonna see these people take and eat the words, right? And I hope when sports does start that every single fan's on their knees.
Yeah.
Every player is on their knees. And when you see a brother suffering like that gave it all up, just like Muhammad Ali did, right? Gave it all up. He went to jail.
Yeah.
Because he believed strongly. I'm not going over to Vietnam to kill people that didn't do nothing to me so that I can come back here and get treated the way you're still treating me.
Right.
100%.
That was deep to me.
Yes.
That was deep to me.
Love him.
Right? So there's men out there that and women that are fighting for our cause, and we need to support them and push them and let them know we got their backs, right? Because at the end of the day, we're doing it for this generation, right? We want to make sure they have a better life and better opportunities, just like our parents fought for us, right?
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
I definitely want to thank you guys for being on the show and sharing your thoughts and your opinions with us. I do believe that we do have to fight, keep fighting, because like you said, we just want everybody to understand the struggle that we've been through, just to put yourself in our position for one moment and walk in our shoes, to understand that physical and mental slavery has been there for years, and racism has been there for years, and racism is not something that you wake up with and you're born with. It's taught.
No.
And that has to stop.
Yes.
Right? And we're not saying that we want to harp on, our ancestors were slaves. I don't want to sit here and say, well, I didn't get that job because it's racism and, I'm black. I just want to know that when you look at me, you look beyond the
leveled playing field,
and just look at me as a person that's capable of doing that job and walking that good fight and walking that walk, right? So thank you again for being on the show.
Yes, thank you guys so much for joining our show. This was amazing, and just to get the perspective of you guys and your family, and baby is so cute. She's awesome.
Yes.
We really appreciate you guys taking this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Take care.
This was
Okay.
another episode of Life Stripes with Kathy and Duke. If you like what you saw, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share the post.
Okay.
Yo.
Peace out.
Baby.